Good evening, friends. We have a very special guest tonight with us. Someone you've all known for a long time and someone who's really progressed in life to achieve a lot of things. We're talking about yesteryear Bollywood actress Somy Ali. Welcome, Somy.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be on your show.
Thank you. Somy is a Pakistani American actress, a writer, a filmmaker, a model, and an activist who's worked in Bollywood films. She runs a non-profit organization named No More Tears since 2007. This organization fights domestic trafficking, and they've been doing this for the past 17 years. She's also the recipient of the Barack Obama Proclamation Award for rescuing victims. So it's a big welcome from our side as well. So maybe watch some of your beautiful pictures as an actress and how well you've done in Bollywood movies. So you've really progressed in life and achieved a lot for yourself.
Thank you so much. It's been a long journey and a journey that has been turned since 2014. I initially decided to write a memoir, but I found it unsettling that, my group was Manisha, Tabu, Ravina. These were my friends. Chichi would come home and would sit on the floor in Mount Mary. I had an apartment. We would have dal chawal, and so these were my people, and I miss them so much because I left in '99, and I reconnected with them not too long ago thanks to Prashant. And of course, Charul, who used to work for Charul Malik, used to work as a reporter for India TV, I believe, and now she is an actress, and she referred me to Prashant. And I said, I want India to know that what Somy has been up to for 21, 22 years and what all I have achieved and how many children and women we have helped from India. And that needs to be known. And, Discovery Series then did a whole documentary. They followed me for 3 months. The first week was a nightmare. Then I got used to it. The cameras, they're in your face all the time when we're doing sting operations and everything. So, but it's been a journey, and I've decided to write my book as a novel with names changed because it's not fair to share my friends, my contemporaries, or my friends at that time to what they told me in confidence to share that. It's not fair. It's not a right thing to do. It's a very unethical, and my moral compass does not veer in that direction at all.
Absolutely. Now, friends, since we have Somy, she has a lot to tell us. And so what we thought was that we could speak to her in parts, as in there's so much that she would love to share with us. At the same time, there's a lot of experience that she has had in Bollywood that she would like to convey to us. Because see, what happened was after the death of SSR, Sushant Singh Rajput, a lot has come to the fore. And all these things are exposed that the Bollywood fraternity is a very hollow one. It's a place where people have. I'm not talking about all of them, but most of them are double-faced. So the first in this first session with Somy, we will be discussing the hypocrisy that exists in Bollywood and how relationships work there. Sometimes you think that people are very friendly there, and then you find out that there's so much of cutthroat competition between them that you find that they don't even talk to them the other. So this sort of atmosphere exists there, Somy. And as you know, we've been running this channel for the past 4 years, ever since Sushant Singh Rajput died, and there's been such a change in the industry with boycott Bollywood happening and so many other things happening. What are your views on this? And so we just just speak your mind, and you don't need to name anybody. That's totally up.
So I have a reputation of having no filter, and I'm very proud of that. And my mom is also very encouraging about that, because having been brought up from in Florida and being a Miami girl, I'll tell you a little example of when I first, I didn't know what rushes were or what trials were. And I was invited to a trial, and I was 16, and it was one of my first trials that I saw. And when I walked out of the movie, the director and the producers asked me, I was 16 years old, and they said, "What did you think of the film?" And I said, "I thought it was the worst movie I've ever seen in my life. And please tell me that this is not actually going to go to cinemas." And I remember the co-star, we were in acting school together, yanked my arm, pulled me aside, and he said, "Somy, you cannot say that when you watch Rushes. You have to say it's the best film in the world." I was like, "So you're telling me I have to lie?" And a person who has zero filter and says what they think. So I learned at 16 how to be untruthful. Not that I was extremely a saint prior to that either, but I did grow up in a household where there was a lot of chaos and trauma, and with my education that I have attained in the past, prior to starting No More Tears, which was in 2007, my self-prognosis is the fact that when people grow up with in dysfunctional households, they thrive in chaos. Hence, my picking a profession where one, I do not take a salary. It's a very unconventionally run nonprofit organization, and I cannot sit behind a desk. I will go insane. I cannot sit in one spot. I do the rescue operations, be it human trafficking, be it domestic violence victims, with the law enforcement myself. I go by myself. I've had, मतलब अभी तक 8 अटैक्स हो चुके हैं. सेकंड अटैक तो मेरे सर पे गन रखी गई थी कि ये this is a warning, the next time you'll be dead. So I picked a profession because what I realized, and I'm in therapy because of my last attack. It happened in December 6 तारीख को 2022 में एक ट्रैफिकर ने कोई 70-80 टाइम्स मेरे शोल्डर और नेक और बैक में किक किया था. तो जब मैं उठी, मैं बेहोश हो चुकी थी. जब मैं उठी तो आई वाज इन अ हॉस्पिटल, एंड जो FBI और पुलिस ऑफिसर्स हैं उन्होंने मुझे बताया कि क्या हुआ. तो अभी तक वो टेंडन 2022 में हुआ था. वो टेंडन अभी भी ब्रोकन है. तो इतनी बुरी तरह मारा गया था. तो उन्होंने क्या किया कि उन्होंने मुझे ट्रॉमा थेरेपी में डाल दिया, क्योंकि मुझे वो आदमी तो ही इज गॉन 37 इयर्स तक वो प्रिजन में चला गया, मगर मुझे नाइटमेयर्स आना शुरू हो गए कि वो लोगों को भेज रहा है मेरे पीछे मरवाने के लिए. क्योंकि they treat these children that are brought from India and America, or even American or Russian or Ukrainian, as commodities. They're not human beings. They're properties, right?
Okay.
And
so these are things that we can discuss in another session. So
okay.
If we were to go back to just go back to Bollywood and tell us, see your experience over there.
Sure.
Because see, you're not the kind of person who would fit into the mold there because of the way you talk and the way you express yourself. So do tell us, what was your experience in Bollywood? Because let me just give you a few examples. For example, a lot of the actors, they give out endorsements, brand endorsements. And since the social media is very sharp, they do not let you forget when you make a mistake. Right. So, for example, Alia Bhatt said something about promoting sugary drinks, and then she moved on to saying that sugar is dangerous, please avoid sugar. So we really don't know what she's trying to propagate. Is she trying to propagate something like sugar, or is she trying to tell us that to stay away from sugar? So who is she? Similarly, you talk about a lot of people like Akshay who promote all these gutka products and say that, see, I did it because of a favor to someone. And then later he says, I'm going to not do these ads at all. And then he comes back in the same ad again with Shah Rukh Khan and with the others. So what happens is that you really can't trust the person who is
Right.
there as an actor trying to tell you that I am the one you should be emulating when you watch my
Right.
movie.
Right, exactly. Okay, so because you're asking me my experiences and my perspective from I have to step outside of a woman who is no longer a 16-year-old child. I have to step outside of this Somy and go into the time capsule of that Somy. So from 16 to 24, because I left in around, I was about to turn 25, which is when our brain fully develops. And so I was exposed to a lot of bad from the age of 4. Which no child should be exposed to. So there was always violence and trauma in my life, and I learned to accept that because I didn't know any better. I didn't know it was not normal. It was in our culture. अरे बदतमीजी नहीं करो थप्पड़ पड़ेगा, माँ बोलती है बच्ची को अपनी या बेटे को बोलती है, और बच्चे हमारे कल्चर में माँ बाप से बहुत मारपीट खाते हैं, जो भी है, तो ये कॉमन होता है। मगर अब्यूज अलग चीज होती है। जब आपके सर्वेंट्स आपके घर में आपको सेक्सुअली अब्यूज कर रहे हैं या मोलेस्ट कर रहे हैं, ये सब अलग चीजें होती हैं। जब आप 14 साल में अपनी वर्जिनिटी रेप के थ्रू लूज करते हैं अमेरिका में, तो वो अलग चीज होती है। और आप में इतनी हिम्मत होती है कि यू टेक दैट पर्सन टू कोर्ट while you're told not to do it because you will be grilled and embarrassed. And I say, no, I will take him to court. I want justice. And that's when I realized, well, I realized at the age of around 7, when I took 4 Afghan refugees and hid them in my cupboard in Pakistan and let them play with my dolls and fed them biryani because I felt bad for them, because I was like, why are they on the streets and why are we living in such a big mansion? It makes no sense to me. And I think that's at that age, I realized that this is what I want to do with my life. Anyway, having said that, I will give you whatever I tell you. It's an analysis of my hindsight, right? Of my retrospect, of my looking back in time and try as I write my book, and I try to analyze and understand. Oh, that's what that was about. Oh,
Absolutely.
that's what that was. So let's assume we're speaking to Somy at 16. Who comes, we know why, and we don't want to delve into that. I want to actually make a clarification, if you allow me, and if we have time, on something pertaining to that individual. But I remember I used to go to Mangla Hall, and I don't know how familiar you are with with Mumbai, sorry. It used to be called Bombay. Because my parents were, my father and my grandparents were born in Bombay. There was no Pakistan. We were all Indians, right? So I remember that Mangla Hall, जो rehearsal hall है, उसके बराबर में there were women, young girls, वो साड़ियाँ पहन के और बहुत मेकअप लगा के, और वो रिक्शाओं में जाती थी हमेशा अलग अलग आदमियों के साथ। तो मैं उस समय 16 साल की थी, तो I couldn't understand what was going on. So I was like, is there a fashion show? Because keep in mind, I'm a Floridian girl. So I'm someone who would sit on the pavement and talk to the rickshawala and ask him about his life. And, that's how we were brought up. We don't see any, I don't believe that labels are indicative of someone's respect towards an individual. I believe that your actions and your behavior towards an individual shows how much you respect them or disrespect them. Hence, I'm very anti-labels. And I always say, please call me Somy, no Somy ma'am, no Somy G, none of that stuff. But I know that it was a norm in India, so I abided by the norm and I gave that respect. And I did touch feet of people that deserved that, gesture. And I did what I thought was the right thing to do as a 16-year-old child. But now when I look back in hindsight, and they say hindsight is 2020, and I realized that those young girls were next to Mangla Hall. There was a brothel that was being run, and those girls were actual, probably human trafficked, or they were escorts, or they were prostitutes. And I don't think any girl in this entire universe as a child, when she's 4 or 5, has a dream of growing up and becoming a prostitute or an escort or a sex worker. There are circumstances, and I don't judge them, because we've had cases of strippers, we've had cases of prostitutes, it doesn't matter to us what religion, caste, creed, doesn't matter, gender, sexual orientation. We help people that are physically and verbally and sexually abused. That is our philosophy and mission of No More Tears. So now, coming back to Somy at 16, it made sense what was going on next to Mangla Hall. And I was like, oh my God, I wonder if that place still exists. So, on my bucket list, I want to go to Italy. I want to go to India again. I want to go to Shiv Sagar and have pav bhaji. Want to go to Elko Market and have pani puri. I want to start a talk show because I want to pursue my degree in journalism. I want to do an American talk show and start small. And it has to be very diversified. It shouldn't be just about No More Tears. And I want people from every country in my talk show. And I'm very fascinated by human behavior, hence psychology. Why do people do things that we do? Look, we all live lives like we live in a grocery store. We all pick and choose what suits us, what suits our conveniences, right? No one is purely good. No one's purely bad, except Stalin and Hitler and child molesters and pedophiles and rapists and murderers. Having said that, मैं भी कोई दूध की धुली भी नहीं। जब मुझे पता चला कि जिस वजह से मैं इंडिया आई थी और ये बात मेरे साथ गलत किया जा रहा था, तो उस समय मैंने डिसाइड किया tit for tat. And I'm my mother's daughter, and my mom has Arab blood. She fought hard when dad had affairs with unki heroines, because he had affairs with his heroines. My mom would fight with him, and like literally physically fight with him. Of course, she lost because men are physically stronger than women. So similarly, I did the same thing when I found out I was not going to achieve. And the awe dissipated from the first incident of violence. The awe of the actual hero dissipated in that millisecond of the first incident of violence. And I realized that, you know what, it's not going to work out. So I decided, I was like, okay, there are reasons I can't go back to America. I had dropped out of 9th grade. I had no education. My mom was leading a very different life. Mom and dad were separated geographically to an extent where my father had abandoned my brother, my mother, and I had to clean toilets and actual poop from toilets so I can feed my mother and my brother. So going from a 28-bedroom mansion to America, cleaning toilets in a snooker club, And the owner of the
So,
club.
what was your father doing? What was your father doing? I mean, as in profession, you say that he
So,
used to have a.
so my dad has a very interesting story, and he, he used to study under the lampposts in India, and he used to tell me stories about Bombay, and because he was that. My grandparents are, my grandfather was Gujarati Jain, and my grandmother was Muslim, and and so I always say that my grandmother from mom's side, who's Iraqi, her husband, her first husband was British. So I have British blood in me, Arab blood, I have Indian Hindu blood, I have Muslim blood, and in the end, I don't believe in dogma. I believe in spirituality and Buddhism and a higher power. I do believe in God, and I do believe that we all have, everything is written for us, and it's what is supposed to happen will happen, and no one in this world has the power, because I'm not better than you, and you're not better than me, is what I believe in. I strongly believe in, and I tell people that listen, when you come to intern with No More Tears, especially the youth of our today, you better check your ego outside the door of No More Tears' office, because it's not going to work out. There's no ego, there's no hierarchy here. I'm the president of No More Tears, and I'm the plumber of No More Tears. And I have no shame in admitting that. So the point is that what I was exposed to was so dire that it went whoosh, because I'm from Florida. And even though I had been abused many a times, not once, many a times, and prior to entering India, I still was sheltered when it came to being street smart. So what I would do
Your
is,
father doing? You forgot that bit.
I'm sorry?
Your father doing? What was
Oh,
your father
sorry.
doing?
Yeah. Sorry. I always go off on tangents. Okay. So my dad was a very successful film producer, director, and a director of photography. And I, as a 4-year-old, used to act in his commercials. And I spent all my time sitting in all the heroines' laps, Fawzia auntie, Sangeeta auntie, and all these people that, the big time heroines of Pakistan at the time, before the age of 8, when, at around 8 or 9, we moved to America. So, but my dad had affairs with them, and my mom would fight with my dad and fight. And I realized I'm reliving my mother's life, except I was an actress, and I went after an actor, and my mom ended up marrying dad, and dad ended up having these affairs. So when mom found out that dad was cheating on mom, she was like, screw this, I'm gonna have affairs too. When I found out what was being done to me, I said, you know what? I'll rebel. I'm a rebellious teenager. If you think that you can do this, because I was told as a man, only I can do this, and you know who I'm talking about. Well, but as a girl, you cannot do this. Now, you don't say that to a Floridian, Miami, rebellious teenager with a mom who's got balls of steel. And you don't say that to that girl, right? So as sheltered as I was, what I now at this age, as a middle-aged woman, I have realized that what the 17, 18, 19, 20, up to 24-year-old girl, young adult, teenager to a young adult was seeking was someone to say, I love you and I genuinely care for you and you are worth something. And that intimacy and affection, it wasn't sexual. It had nothing to do with sex. It was the yearning and the longing to find, which I couldn't find in the idol and the hero that they say you should never meet, and now I know why. But now I realize that, and I will not name those people, that they were using a teenage child for their own, whims and wishes, and have me at their beck and call, and me thinking this person actually loves me, and he's going to either leave his wife or break off his engagement, and he's going to marry me, and they would.
Person engaged at that time?
I'm sorry.
Was the person engaged to someone at that?
Yes, yes. And I was under the impression that this person would break the engagement, and I would end up marrying him, and I would finally get love. Now, what had happened is Dad had remarried in Pakistan at that time. And imagine being 16. Put yourself, I don't know if because sympathy and empathy are two different sentiments. Sympathy is when you feel sorry for yourself. Empathy is when you can actually empathize and put yourself in that person's shoes, in their life, in their brain, in their body. If you have the ability to empathize with the 17, 18-year-old Somy, put yourself in my shoes and think about someone telling you that you're beautiful, I love you, and leave this man that you're with because he's not good for you, and I will take care of you for the rest of your life. And I was told this by not one person, but people that were that were my actors, co-stars, that were from my mom's era, that I did 4 films with. And I was told, and then people I was in acting school with, and I was just like, I was very baffled. I was like, I don't know if this is true. I can't go to Pakistan because I have no interest in Pakistan. Dad's remarried. He's moved on. Mom's got her own life. She's got her boyfriends. And, she's living her own life, and she deserves it. Why not? Yes, go for it. Live your life. You've been through hell. More kudos to my mother, and if Dad wants to remarry, that's his prerogative. It's fine. But I, on the other hand, have to forgive. And in therapy, I'm learning. I sent you a cover, and I sent that cover to my therapist, and she said, Somy, you have to learn to be very kind to this 16-year-old girl. And you have to learn to not only forgive her, but you have to learn to like her, because you have a lot of disdain for her, and you have a lot of regrets and remorse for this girl. And now we're speaking of not this Somy, we're speaking of another Somy. So during therapy, I was starting to understand what my therapist was, and she's a trauma therapist, and and I was understanding, because she has to go back from the age of 4 in order to heal me, because I was diagnosed with PTSD and severe acute trauma, not depression. Depression is circumstantial. Or depression is acute depression. It's an ailment. It's fatigue. You don't get out of bed for days. But my depression was sadness, and it was circumstantial. No more tears को donation नहीं मिल गए. ये victim जो है वापस अपने husband के पास चली गई. वो उसको इतना मारता था. Those were my sadness, situations. So there were circumstantial sadness sentiments. I was diagnosed with PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, and trauma, extreme acute trauma. So not only because of what happened in Pakistan with the servants, and the rape in America at 14, and the stuff I endured in India, not only the abuse, but also the promises that were made to me, And I was so gullible that I told my therapist, I said, how could I be so dumb? And she said, stop. You need to stop right there. You were a child. These people were like 35. They were 45. Some of them were 50. You were a child. Your father was never around. The only time you saw your father, he was abusing your mother, or you were seeing him shooting his films and he was reprimanding the actresses because he was a director. And I was in awe of my father because I was like, he was very affluent, and no one would take us in when my mom was abused because they were terrified of dad. And guess what's being repeated here again in Somy's life? When I started speaking out against and posting, Somy Ali became the most hated woman in India. Okay. I started getting DMs that I cannot tell you how disgusting they were. And they were all majority of them were from women. And so my therapist said, stop reading your DMs and block your comments. Only people you follow should be able to comment on your Instagram, and stop reading your DMs. So then I spoke to Manisha. Manisha was a very close friend of mine. And I spoke to her 2 months ago. And, she was, she reminded me about this famous thumbs up incident. I don't know if you remember, but would you like me to get into that? Because that was,
No, please do. Yeah.
or gist of it or whatever.
No, please do.
Basically, it was basically there was rum in the thumbs up. Salman was disapproving of it. It's the first time I was trying alcohol. And Manisha said, he poured the thumbs up on my head, but the story came out he banged the bottle, which was ridiculous because I would have been hospitalized. But that's tabloids, right? For you back in the 90s. And Manisha said, either you come with me now or you go with him. And guess what I did? I went with him. So that caused a rift between our friendship because she stood up for me in front of Salman. And that's a big deal. She was doing khamoshi with him at the time. And I spoke to her.
A small
Sure.
interjection. Yeah.
No.
Somy, did you, though you were very young, did you at any stage feel that there's this force that tries to control all the people, and that if you speak against it, then everybody turns against you? Were you able to sense that feeling?
Not when I was young, because I was very angry. I had a lot of rage in me when I was young, because I had flown Saat Samundar Par. And do you know how many people have crushes on Tom Cruise? And Katie Holmes was Tom Cruise's fan, and she ended up marrying him, and then turned out to be completely idiotic, following Scientology. L. Ron Hubbard, a science fiction writer, for crying out loud. I mean, Jesus Christ, give me a break. I mean, they're talk about defying logic and rationale at every level. So Katie Holmes was one of the lucky ones. So I was one of the lucky ones. I actually ended up meeting Salman, living with him for 3 years. Prior to that, I lived on Mount Mary in front of Zinat and Mazhar Bhai and Jackie and Aisha's house, apartment building. And eventually I moved in with Salman. And in America, they say first floor. In India and Pakistan, we say ground floor. So he had a property on the ground floor. So he said, look, I'm never going to leave my parents. And I said, I totally understand. And he said, why don't you decorate the ground floor and make that our apartment? Because on the first floor
Is it
was...
the same? Is it the
Auntie
same
and
Galaxy apartment?
Yes. So on the ground floor, I decorated. I went and I used to like marble a lot. And because in our house in Pakistan, it was filled, the whole house was marble. And so Salman took me to a marble factory in India and in Bombay. And I picked out blue marble for the kitchen. I believe for the living room, and I designed the whole ground floor apartment where we both lived for 3 years.
How old was he, Somy?
So when I met Salman, he was 27. I was 16. And now, if you think about it, if I'm 37 and someone's 48, I can still converse with that individual at this level. But when I'm 16 and the person's 27, that's a pretty significant age gap, right? So, and also I had dropped out of ninth grade. I was lacking in education, and I correlate ignorance to laziness. Anyone who is ignorant is because they're lazy to research and get educated. That's how I correlate it too. I think that's complete laziness, and because I worked my butt off when I came back to America.
You, going back to the decoration bit, yes.
So I said, Salman, I want to decorate this like an American apartment, and I want the kitchen and the living room to be right in front of each other, and I don't want a door for the kitchen, and it was a small space, and I decorated the whole ground floor apartment, and that was our apartment. And every night, we call it entourage. I used to call them, excuse my butt lickers, pardon my French, but every night there was an entourage of alcohol sessions, and I remember coming out in my pajamas with Mickey Mouse because I brought them from America, and coming out at like 3 o'clock, and I would say, Salman, when are you coming to bed? It's so late. It's 3 o'clock. And he said, abhi aa raha hun, so jao. Ja, so jao. Like I was like a little 5-year-old, right? So, and he's sitting with like Sajid Nadyadwala, Ketan Desai, Sanju, and whoever, Nadeem, and whoever his entourage was at the time, and whoever they are now. I don't know. I could care less. But there were many nights that I encountered that. And I was like, well, do I really want to be married to someone who's going to be having an entourage and drinking sessions every night? And I'm going to be in my PJs and asking, when are you coming to bed? So my mind started thinking. And this is now I'm at like 20, right? I'm approaching where your brain is starting to fully develop by the time you're 25. So I'm evolving as even though without education, I'm evolving as a person, as an individual. And I'm understanding that all these people who were claiming to care for me and telling me that they want to marry me, they love me, and they will break up their engagements and their marriages. It was complete horse crap. And I realized that they were using me like a piece of meat. And not too long ago when Prashant started doing my public relations, who I must say is a wonderful person, he reconnected me with Sunil, Vivek Oberoi, Kamal Sadana. He was a very good friend of mine. We did a movie, 90% we shot it, and it was Sheldon. It was such a good character. Finally, when I got interested in acting, and I actually got a hang of it with Om Puri ji and Jitu ji, and I played Julie Bindas, like in this movie, right, with Kamal. The producer turns out to be a con artist, some lady, and she disappears. And I was so upset because I was Julie Bindas, and I had never spoken Mumbai ki zaban, Mumbai ki, Gayle thi or Kareli thi and all that stuff. So I was super excited. And actually, Salman used to help me rehearse because I didn't know how to speak in that manner. He used to help me rehearse those dialogues. I remember I did a film with Pranal Mehta, son Jay Mehta. I had to ride a motorcycle. We went to Joggers Park at 3 a.m. and Salman taught me in 2 hours how to ride a motorcycle. Then I had to drive a stick shift. Now in America, I was driving only automatic cars. So Salman taught me again at Joggers Park how to drive a stick shift, because in a movie called Chup with Jitu Ji, there was a scene where we go and bury the dead body of Om Puri Ji, and I have to drive the car. And I was petrified because Jitu Ji is like mom's, like Shri Devi Himmat Wala, and Mar gayi mujhe teri judai, and mom says he cheats on her, and she would explain the movies because I couldn't understand, like, why is Rekha mad at Jitu Ji? Like, what's going on? I didn't understand, like, he had sex with another woman, and all the, mom would later explain the scripts as I got older. But I was very nervous in the car with Jitu Ji, and so all these experiences, and when I was actually getting a hang of it, and Om Puri Ji, he knew I was petrified, unnerved to the T, because Om Puri also acted in Mississippi Masala. He was also a Hollywood actor, and like late Irfan, a phenomenal actor. Lunchbox is one of my favorite movies, and so I was like, oh my God, how am I going to act with Om Puri Ji and Jitu Ji? Oh my God, Himmat Wala. The matkas came in my mind with Shri Devi, that Kalsa and all that stuff. And, mom used to watch all that stuff. So Jitu Ji was like, kya hua? Dari bhi kyun ho? So I said, Jitu Ji, मुझे ये अभी 2-3 घंटे पहले रात को सिखाई गई है स्टिक शिफ्ट चलाना. मैं अमेरिका में ऑटोमेटिक गाड़ी चलाती थी. तो he said, डरो नहीं, मैं हूँ साथ में, और मैं जैसा बोलता हूँ वैसा करो. So finally I managed to clutch, and the first, and then got to the fourth gear or whatever, and I will never forget Jitu Ji. He and there were 3 people that took a stand for me. One was Manisha, and she said, Somy, after the thumbs up incident, she said, come and stay with me. I'll take care of you. And I should have taken her advice, but I have promised my therapist I'm going to forgive that girl, that young girl. And then there was Jitu Ji, who noticed that there's something wrong with her. He was very, very intuitive, and he could tell. And he took me in my makeup room and he said, Beta, तुम कुछ problem है तुम्हें कोई चीज सता रही है, तुम बताओ मुझे, मैं मदद करता हूँ तुम्हारी, तुम मुझे बताओ. तो I said, नहीं जीतू जी, कुछ भी नहीं है, ऐसी कोई बात नहीं है. अच्छा, then Satish Shah was in Teesra Kong with me, which I had a blast. It was with Chunky, and Chunky's hilarious. And so Satish Shah used to call me, instead of Somy Ali, Sehmi Ali. Sehmi is a word both in Hindi and Urdu, and Sehmi Ali is a person who's very timid and petrified at all times. And you can see it in their face. And I tried to put up a brave front, but these actors, and much older than myself, these people, they recognized it. I couldn't recognize it. And, it was just, they could tell. And anyway, it got to a point where my first time facing the camera was with Sanju in Goa in a song called Dil To Khoya Yahin Pe Kahin Pe. And I was so nervous because I remember Sanju from Rocky, Tera Naam, and I thought Tina Muni was the most beautiful woman outside of Rekha. Rekha's number 1, then Kajol, Rani, and I thought Alia and Deepika, they're all gorgeous, stunning, right? But Rekha, I think today, Rekha, Smita Patel, Nandita Das, I used to go for those beauty lies in the eyes of the beholder. And I thought there was no woman prettier than Rekha, because I saw Umrao Jan as a kid. And my mom explained to me that no one would take her because she was deemed impure. And I still didn't understand what mom was talking about. But then again, I watched it at 30 and I was like, oh my God, this poor woman, what a sad story. And I learned that it was based off of an Urdu novel. Then I saw Rekha Ji's interview with Simi Garba, who's an amazing, amazing host, by the way. And Rekha ji said she had never learned how to dance. She never knew Urdu. She never had any training. And I was bewildered and just like, my mind was like, what? It was like, and this is the talent this woman is oozing out of her body. I mean, I'm a diehard Rekha ji fan. So coming back to the promises that were made, I decided to forgive those people, and because tali do haath se bachti hai. I my mistake, and my therapist corrects me every time I say that. So I'll say this: I did not know I was in the unknown category, that I was being taken advantage of. But the people who were doing the deed knew what they were doing.
So
And
how did you break off?
I'm sorry,
How did you break off and go?
how do you what?
Did you break off, from the relationship? How did you break
Oh,
off from the
okay.
relationship?
So it got really bad towards the end. I was 24, and I had fallen off a horse when I was 16, and I landed on my lower vertebrae. It was L4, L5, S1, and uh, as time progressed, I developed degenerative disc disease, and on top of that, I always had back pain problems because of the fall from the horse. And they put me on a horse with no horse training. And I think Tinu, who was the fight action director in those days,
Nuana?
Tinu, was it
Nuani?
Tinu? Yes, yes,
Yes.
yeah. And I remember the horse. They put me on the horse, and the horse took off. It galloped, and it threw me on my back on rocks and destroyed my lower vertebrae. As time went on, I was only 16, and the violence that was endured and being thrown around like a rag doll, it worsened the situation to a level where I was bedridden at 24. And Hum Dil De Chuke Sanam was being shot at that time. And uh, there were visits by the actor, leading actress, uh, in the gym in our ground floor apartment, to Salman, because he had just come out of prison from the Black Buck case. It was around that time. And I came to know that there were not just visits, there was more to it, by one of the helpers. They told me what was going on. So I thought it was time to move on. My back is, I can barely, I was emaciated, I fainted. Ketan Desai actually lifted me up and carried me to the bedroom. I was not eating. I was very ill. And I was in a very, very bad mental state. And I realized that it is time now, Somy, you need to go back to America, and you need to start from scratch. And that's when I decided, okay, I worked in an immigration office, answering phones. At one point, I'm with Om Puri and Jutuji, and then I did a cameo for Chichi in I forget the name of the film, but he said to me, can you do a cameo for me? And I said, I would do anything for you. You're like the nicest guy. And so I did a cameo for Chichi. And then I called Dad.
Govinda?
Yes, Chichi. Govinda, yes. So Govinda's manager was Shashi Sinha, who was also my manager. Prior to Shashi Sinha, Pankaj Kharbanda, who's Sanjay Dutt's manager, was my manager. And so I did a cameo with Govinda in one of his movies. And after that, I called Dad and I said, Dad, I would like for you to send me a ticket to Pakistan, and then I just want to stay in a hotel. I don't want to stay in your house because he was with his wife, and I didn't want to deal with that. So he booked me in a hotel.
Yeah, Somy, before you continue, could you also narrate the incident where you trusted some journalists and you opened up your mind and there was some,
Oh
you
God.
felt
Yes.
disappointed in.
Yes. So this journalist had, I think he was about a year or two out of journalism school, and a really wonderful guy. And I told him everything, and because I have no filter, and I was gullible, and I was not street smart. So I told him about the people that told me that they loved me and I should leave the guy, and the people I was having affairs with. And because I was told only men can do it, you can because you're a girl. And I was like, I'll show you, because I was my mom's daughter. So I confided in every little detail. The next thing I know, this journalist comes out with an article about everything I told him. And I was aghast at how he broke my trust. Then I find out when I came back to America, and I drowned myself into education. You either go through the self-destructive path and do drugs and alcohol, or you go and go, better yourself as a person, and you heal through a different way. And I chose, of course, the latter. I was not interested in drugs and alcohol and all that stuff. And I drowned myself in education. And I read textbooks before the semesters. I was the biggest nerd in college. And my best time in my life was when I was in college. If anyone asked me, when were you the happiest? I would say when I was learning about Virginia Woolf, Emily Dickinson, Edgar Allan Poe. Those were my happiest days of my life. 1920s writers, and Picasso and Van Gogh and their lives. And because there's a very thin line between creativity and madness. And if you notice from Johnny Depp, who was very abused as a child, he's one of the top actors of Hollywood. He became successful. Hitler was very abused. He was a sociopath and a horrible human being. Stalin, abused again in childhood, horrible human being. Somy Ali, abused many a times throughout her life, chose the path to start a nonprofit, drowned in education, and decided to leave. But this
And
gentleman, this journalist, eventually became an editor of that magazine, and he became a part of the entourage of the
yeah,
individual. And I couldn't believe it. And he had the gall while we were shooting for Discovery Plus, because I have blocked this individual, and he called me from an unknown. Now, unknown numbers are usually FBI or police departments. So I answered the phone. It was a break during filming, during lunchtime. And so this gentleman calls me, who's now a producer of films, and he says, you're on speaker. And he said, you will benefit more if you don't speak ill about this individual in Discovery Plus, if you were to say what the truth was. And I said, who are you with? And he said, well, I'm with him and you're on speaker. And I said, why are you calling me? I told you I want to have nothing to do with you after that article. And he said, are you ever going to forgive me for that article? I said, no, because friends don't betray friends' trust. And in my book, if you stab me and are deceitful toward me once, you're out. I don't give you 3 strikes. You don't get 3 strikes. I'm sorry. I just don't do that. So I said, why are you calling me? He said, listen, this individual just wants to talk to you, and he's on speaker and you're on speaker. So I said, I do not have a word to say to him. So he said, hello, Somy. So I said, what can I do for you? So he said, oh, what can you do for me? And I said, yeah, what do you want from me? What can I do for you? Why are you calling me? I blocked you. What do you want from me? And he said, who do you think you are? And I said, listen, MF, go F yourself and never call me again. And I hung up the phone. Then I sent the journalist friend an audio text, which I shared with you, because before hanging up the phone, that gentleman said, "What bad have I ever done to you?" And that question was, I mean, you're not answering that question, asking that question to a 17-year-old, shy, timid Sammy Ali anymore. You're answering a question to a middle-aged woman who is fighting human traffickers, has a gun pointed to her head, has had several attacks, and really doesn't give a crap about who you are. Because if you come to America and you walk in a mall, no one even look at you twice. You're nothing. You're absolutely nothing. And I never went to America, to India for your acting skills. I had a crush on you because I thought you were hot, and I was 16. And I always thought Shark was a better actor and an actual actor. I always thought that this person could never act. And I stick to that to this day. Now, would you like me to talk a little about the recent article about the Bishnoi tribe?
Yeah, please.
Okay.
Yes.
So Hindustan Times did an article, and I have certain beliefs and idiosyncrasies or traits or beliefs or whatever that I abide by in my life, and I'm very against the death penalty. And because when we didn't have DNA back in the day, a lot of innocent people were killed. And I think a death penalty to a child molester is giving him an injection to go to sleep, and he goes to sleep and dies very peacefully. And that is not justice in my mind. So I've always been against the death penalty. So I made a statement, even though I have blocked this individual from every media platform, his family, his relatives, his people he knows, anyone. No one can access me on Instagram unless he's got minions everywhere, and they probably follow my Instagram. But so I said that I would like to say that if it were Shahrukh, if it were my neighbor, if it was Salman, if it was anyone, I told the journalist for Hindustan Times that I would say that is a wrong thing that was conducted by this tribe. Now, keep in mind, I don't know anything about who these people are. All I know is that Salman would not take me hunting because I would cough and make the animal go away. So that's all I remember. That why I was not taken on Hum Sab Saath Saath Hain or whatever. Thank God I didn't go for that. And it was a blessing in disguise. And I don't deem hunting animals as a sport. I don't find anything funny or attractive in killing animals as a sport. I find it disgusting, despicable, and repugnant. It's despicable to me. I despise anyone who deems hunting as a sport. There's a photo of Trump's son with some animal, and he's standing like he's some great guy or whatever. He's an idiot. He's a fool. He's an ignorant fool. So I carry the same sentiments, but I do not think that Salman or even my neighbor should be held, should be murdered or should be killed. And keep in mind, if the walls could talk in my apartment on Mount Mary, you would probably literally fall off of your chair of what I've endured in those 8 years. Even in the apartment, and also in Sirak Hotel, and also in Vindhyachal when I lived there. It's so bad. And they corroborated my abuse from my maidservant in India, BBC London. He had that article dropped. Now this woman is 65. She was my shadow. She stood up to this man at 45, and she said, साहब भाई इस बच्ची को मत मारो, आप मुझे मार लो, इस बच्ची को मत मारो. Because what happened is I started showing up on sets with bruises, and people would notice, and they would say, Ajay Shelar was a makeup artist. I don't know where he is now, but he was my makeup artist. And they would say, put pounds and pounds of foundation on her, cover her bruises. She can't shoot a song like this. And so people noticed, and I was abused in public, and every tabloid you pick up from the 90s, it's very blatant and everyone knows. And, you know, I had confided in some people, and especially that reporter who said everything, except I became the bad person in it because I had affairs, and I was not supposed to have affairs because he was a man and he could do it, but I shouldn't have done that. So I was blamed in that article. It was a very negative piece on me. I still have it, and I will never forget it, and I will never forgive him for that. So I sent him
A very similar thing happened recently when we watched the interview of a lady, also a film journalist, who said,
okay.
who had to say some very bad things about you. And then you reiterated, you spoke to me and you said, that's all a lie. And, she was very close to me when I was there in Bollywood.
Yeah, so I was very baffled. I forget her last name, but I remember Simi. She used to come to Syrup Hotel, and we would have tons and tons of food. I would order room service because I was a brat, and I would have conversations with her about, you know, actors, and you know, I had no aspirations of becoming an actor. I came there for another reason. And I always found her to be very kind, very polite, very nice. And then all of a sudden, a friend of mine, an Indian, a Canadian Indian who resides in America, he sent me a video and tagged me in it where it says that this lady is saying that Somy had cancer. She did 5 movies, and that also she got वो सलमान ने दिलाई है उसको फिल्में, और अब वो अच्छी लगती है, एक्स्ट्रा ऑर्डिनरी लुकिंग भी नहीं थी, अच्छी लगती है, अब हमें पता है क्यों अच्छी लगती है. अब you know what they're implying I've had plastic surgery, which if I do have, I will shout it at the top of my lungs because I have no qualms. Look, if you're not happy with your face, if you are an acid burn victim, which we do take people that are acid burn victims and get them plastic surgeries, or if you don't like your nose, fix it. If that builds your self-esteem, do it. If I feel that somewhere I'm feeling a little an iota or a speck of low self-esteem and I need to do something to my face, I will go for it. I have no qualms about it. But that didn't affect me as much as the fact that she said she had cancer and she got 5 movies from Salman, because those 2 lies. Number one, someone who was very close to me, like a sister, and who stood up for me, and I will never ever forget her and eternally be grateful to her, and that is Manya Manisha. She has been someone who went through cancer. And I couldn't reach out to her. I didn't know where she was. I was so disconnected. I didn't know how to reach out to her during that time. You don't throw around the word cancer like it's a cough and a cold. And my mother's older sister died of breast cancer a year and a half ago. So when my mom saw that video, she was bawling for hours. She asked me, how many times have I gotten my mammogram done? I told her, I reassured her, I get it every year. I'm up to date with my mammograms. And I said, Mommy, this person, she used to be very nice. I still gave her the benefit of doubt. Think about that. Because when people go low, I try to go high. I'm not going to stoop down to their level because I know that Simi her career is kind of no longer there anymore. She's like a has-been. And for someone, I'm going to be nasty here, but for someone to walk around with that face, to have the audacity to say that I had plastic surgery is very comedic for me. And I'm going to be nasty, and I'm never nasty, but that really upset my mother, and that's why I'm saying this. So to throw around the word cancer like that and to lie about getting films, I got films from Shashi Sinha and Pankaj Kharbanda. And those two secretaries are the ones who got me movies. My first audition was for Dharamji's film, Barsat or Champion, which ended up with Tina Khanna, Akshay's wife. And it was called, I think, Barsat. I don't know what happened to the film, but I auditioned with Shekhar Kapoor for the film, and I was terrible because I had no inclination of doing films. But I was spotted in Sirak Hotel by Dharamji's assistant, who's no longer alive, and may he rest in peace. He was a wonderful gentleman named Deepak, and he brought my photo to Dharamji. And Dharamji said that ये इसका लुक बहुत जीनत अमान, परवीन बॉबी, और इसकी नाक मुझे मुम्मू की याद आती है. मुम्मू धर्मजी कहते थे मुमताज को. इसकी नाक मुझे मुम्मू की याद आती है, और इसके जो चीक बोन्स और इसका बहुत वेस्टर्न, और इसकी जो स्माइल है वो बहुत इनोसेंट है. तो उन्होंने मुझे अपने घर बुलाया. फिर उन्होंने बताया अच्छा वो उर्दू लिखते हैं, और मैं भी उर्दू लिखती हूँ, क्योंकि 8 साल की उम्र तक उर्दू जो हमने सीखी थी पाकिस्तान में मुझे अभी तक याद है. तो and I used to do my dialogues. If the writers knew how to write Urdu, I would request them to write them in Urdu because I can read them. And to date, I can read and write Urdu. And in the end, it's Hindi and Urdu are behne. As Kakaji said in Bawarchi, Hindi or Urdu behne. We're all the same. We all bleed red. I don't see any religion. I don't have that mindset. I've evolved to a level where I do not. Like I said, the real heroes are the people, as Denzel Washington said, are ready to take a bullet in their face to keep us safe, and the Jawans in India or any other country. And Jai Hind, and I salute those soldiers that protect us. And because my grandparents and my father are Indian, and we're all Indian because there was no Pakistan. And I'm a huge Gandhi follower. I'm a pacifist. And I have learned to extrapolate the bad from the individual, because like I said, none of us are good. None of us are bad. Of course, the extremes like Ted Bundy and, the serial killers and all that stuff. But you know what I'm talking about. We're all cafeteria people. We're all grocery shop people. We pick and choose what suits us to our conveniences. And that's how we live our lives. And I think people have forgotten that they have to die. And they have to face whatever it may be. And I think they need to be reminded of that. But anyway, coming back to your question, I was very appalled by the shooting outside, because keep in mind, I lived in that house for 3 years. I ate their food. Every lunch it was with Salman Aunty and Salim uncle. Salman Aunty's Maharashtrian. Malaika is Christian. Ammu, Malaika's sister, Amrita is Christian. Seema is Hindu. They're no longer together, I know, but I know they got married in front of me, Sohail and Seema. Salma Auntie's real name is Chandni Auntie. Her brother, Dilip uncle, was my dentist in Mumbai.
So did you at any time really bond with the family?
Absolutely. I was first of all, I was a little confused because I was in the middle of a car back seat with Helen Auntie on this side and Salma Auntie on this side, and we were all going shopping. So I was not able to understand what was going on here. it was a brand new phenomena for me that, okay, so Salman, Arbaz, and Sohail, Alvira, Arpita call Helen auntie mom, and and there's no malice anywhere, and Salman auntie and Helen auntie are friends, and that's the way of their lives, and that's how they live. So I loved them both equally. And Chandni auntie, Salma auntie, was Maharashtrian, and I remember she couldn't read Arabic, right? So I could read Arabic because I was forced to, as a child, read the Quran, having been raised Muslim. So I could read Arabic, so I would read it for her and translate it for her. And I remember most beautiful thing I had ever seen was in their bedroom. There was a mandir. Right next to the mandir, there was a Quran. And then I realized Seema was Hindu, Sohail was Muslim, Salman was Muslim, and Salmanti was Hindu, Salim uncle was Muslim, and Salmanti's entire family was Maharashtrian. And Malaika and Amu were Christian, and Arbaz was Muslim. And I realized that they do not ever, ever make a distinction of anyone's class, creed, or religion. And that is the one thing I will never forget that I attained from that household and Salmanti and Salim uncle. The wisdom that I learned that you do not indulge or engage in any debate or conversation about bigotry and racism. And we are all one, irrespective of who we believe in. I don't care if you worship a frog. If that makes you happy, so be it. Worship the frog. Go all the way. I don't care if you worship a snake or a cockroach. I don't care. Be a good human being. And stop this hatred, discriminatory mindset against our gay brothers and sisters, because we're in 2024. No one picks to be gay. It's hard enough to be straight. Trust me, you're hearing this from someone who's straight. It's hard enough to lead a life being a straight human being, let alone how to accuse someone of picking to be gay is the most atrocious, irrational thing I've ever heard. It's a sexual orientation, and to quote Lady Gaga, we're born this way. So, anyways, coming back to the Bishnoi tribe, if you would like me to continue.
Yeah, please.
So I in the interview I said I मैं विनती करती हूँ और मैं सलमान की तरफ से माफी मांगती हूँ और मैं ये आपसे प्लीज रिक्वेस्ट करती हूँ कि ये 1998 का ये किस्सा है और उनसे गलती हो गई, उनसे मिस्टेक हो गई और हम सब गलतियां करते हैं, हम सब से मिस्टेक्स होती हैं और होती रहेंगी. तो आप उनकी तरफ से मैं माफी मांगती हूँ, because I know the ego that in the individual carries. So and if he does hear this or watch this, and since I blocked him from everywhere and I have no inclination in rekindling or reunifying the relationship or a friendship, I have no interest in talking to him. Or this article was not to the trolls. When this article came out, I had to go. God, I had to stop reading them. इसको देखो, ये वापस जो है अब सलमान के पीछे अब इसकी तारीफें कर रही है. I am not doing तारीफें. I'm saying don't murder the man, you idiots. You cannot get justice by killing a person. Violence begets violence.
So Somy,
Yes.
what you're saying is that that they want to murder him because he killed the black buck.
Correct.
Is it as simple as that?
I'm sorry?
Is it as simple as that?
I see. I don't want to say much because I don't have a lot of knowledge in this subject. I had to research online a couple of days ago when the shooting took place, and I learned that when the black buck was killed, the Bishnoi tribe, the guy who's in prison now, I believe, was 7. He's now 32, and he was all his life. He was told that he has to avenge or vindicate the family because of what occurred. Now, I know Salman well enough that I know that he did not know, and he does not have the wherewithal or the knowledge to ascertain that that was something that was worshipped. So, for example, today I had the FBI call me. We have a girl from Delhi that was human trafficked here, and she's 19, and she was brought through shadi.com, which is a very normal thing, which we'll delve into at a later point. And so the agent calls me and says, I brought her beef burger. She's not eating them. I said, I have given you a menu for women from India, young girls. If they're vegetarian, if they're non-vegetarian, you have to ask them. I've given you a, please refer to that menu. She ended up eating a chicken sandwich. He said, she doesn't want to wear tampons. And I said, yes. I never wore tampons. I don't wear tampons. We wear pads. And there's a stupid belief system that if you wear a tampon, your hymen is broken and you're no longer. It's a stupid, dumbass belief or whatever. But I've worn pads all my life. Why change now? Right? So I said, go buy the 19-year-old kid pads. What is your problem? Get her a chicken sandwich and get her pads. So people are oblivious to all this stuff. So now, for example, when Salman did, and I was not there to cough out loud, did kill, he was not knowledgeable of the fact that, and I'm making an assumption here. I don't know this, but I know Salman well enough that I know that he didn't think that that was a god that they worshipped, right? So, something very beautiful that just I thought of, that Salim uncle never ate pig, because in Islam, Salim uncle never ate beef because Hindus don't eat beef. And their love for each other, Chani auntie, Salma auntie never ate pig because Muslims don't eat pig. And I thought that was such a beautiful gesture of love, that you respect one another, and you sacrifice something as small as, I think it's a big deal. But when I was a kid, I found that such a sweet gesture of love. But again, coming back to, I don't think Salman, actually, I can guarantee it, he did not know that they worshiped that as a god. And he enjoyed hunting. And I went with him 3 times. Every single time I prayed, please God, whoever you are, don't let there be an animal be spotted. And then I would fake sneezes and fake coughs. Those 3 incidents. We never caught an animal. Salman said, next time, tum nahi aa rahi ho. हम लोग हंटिंग पे जाएंगे, तुम नहीं आ रही हो. ऊपर वाला तुम्हारी दुआ सुनता है. पता नहीं क्या तुम्हारा कनेक्शन है ऊपर वाले के साथ. हमें कोई जानवर नहीं मिलता है. So, I mean, the logical answer to that was my coughing and the animal running away. But whatever he wants to believe, if he thinks I have a connection with higher power, hey, why not? That's great. So I think the reason I gave that interview was not to rekindle, reunify, get in his text, his good books. I don't want to make a comeback. I have no interest in Bollywood. I have no interest in benefiting from anyone. I've been boycotted, in fact, for speaking against him. And he's told everyone not to talk to me. So the people I reconnected with, from Vivek Oberoi to, a lot of people, Sonu Sood, I never knew him, but I asked for his number from Prashant, and I left him a voice note, and I said, Sonu, I don't know you, but my name is Somy Ali, and I don't think you know me, And I just want to say, I want to commend you on all the good work that you've been doing, because I saw his reels, they were very charitable. And he immediately wrote back a voice note and said, of course I know you. We belong to the same film fraternity. Of course I know you. And if there's anything I can do for you, please let me know. And then I read an article from Kangna Ranaut that I will be your voice in the wings. And I put a post of Kangna and I said, I'm taken aback by this young lady. And I said, I need her number. I asked Prashant to get me her number. And I sent her a voice note. And I said, Kangna, I just want to say कि आपने मेरे लिए इतनी अच्छी बातें कही हैं, मैं आपको जानती भी नहीं हूँ और आप मुझसे बहुत छोटी हैं, तो आप मुझे दीदी कहिए, क्योंकि she referred me as Somy G. And you know, I hate that kind of stuff. So I said, आप मुझे Somy दीदी कहिए. I didn't know her age. I thought she was 22 or 25 because I'm very out of touch. So I didn't know. I thought she was like 25 or something. So I said, आप मुझे Somy दीदी कहिए. So when Salman saw that article, I'll be your voice in wings, 2 days later, guess who's on the set of Big Boss? Kangna Ranaut. So now I know why someone was going to be my voice in wings and what occurred, because I'm not Sammy Ali, I'm Somy Ali, and I understand the game of chess, and I understand who's making what move for what benefit and what they're up to. And I have evolved in such a manner that I cannot tell you.
Yeah. So on this note, we'll end this session, Somy,
Yes.
and then we'll connect on the another session with Somy.
Yes.
So friends, a very interesting talk with Somy, who's grown over the years and is doing a lot of good work, which we will hear more in the coming sessions. So thank you, Somy, for this lovely session.
Are you
Wonderfully
kidding me?
spoken.
Thank you. It's a privilege. My mom is going to be so excited. She loves you, absolutely loves you. And I think there's a photo of yours in one of your, I think it's your photo with your hair. And my mom was like, she's so beautiful. And I was like, I know. And look how honest she is. And my mom's like, she's so beautiful. I was like, Mom, look how honest she is. As an activist, I'm more focused on that, right? So I'm like, she's so honest. She's amazing, and I want to have a talk show, and I want to follow in her footsteps and conduct real journalism. And so I'm a huge fan of yours, and it's an honor and a privilege to be on your show. And thank you for even allowing me to give my voice to people that are in fact in domestic violence relationships, children who are being sexually abused, our gay community, our brothers and sisters. If they need help, please contact No More Tears. We're here to help you. I don't care if you're in India.
We'll give you the details, friends, below, so you can reach out to Somy and her.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, Meena. Have a wonderful
Jai
night.
Hind.
And
Jai Shri
Jai
Ram.
Hind. Jai Hind. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.